Now, Julian Assange, remember him? The man known for publishing secret diplomatic cables on the website WikiLeaks has condemned the publication of his biography today.
Mr Assange tried to cancel the autobiography, which was written by a ghostwriter after hours of interviews with the cyber activist. Europe correspondent Philip Williams spoke to Canongate publishing director Nick Davies about their decision to go ahead with the much-anticipated book.
Julian Assange has described your company as not about freedom of information, they're about old-fashioned opportunism and duplicity, screwing people over to make a buck. Is that you?
That sounds like Julian, certainly in terms of the quotes. That's not us as a publisher, no. I think what Julian is overlooking there is that we had a contract in place with him. We still do have a contract in place with him, a live contract to publish his autobiography, which he willingly signed. He also signed up with 38 other publishers.
Does he still, nevertheless, get royalties?
Technically, what we've done is Julian tried to cancel this contract in June. He said he wanted to walk away from it. Given the number of difficulties we'd had in bringing the final manuscript into shape, we reluctantly agreed. We said, OK, Julian, if you want to walk away, it's sad. We would love to publish this book with you. But OK, let's part ways. But you need to repay your advance to us. He was unable to repay his advance to us because he'd signed that money over to his lawyer. So the contract is still live, and what we're doing today in publishing this book is honouring that original contract.
Let's look at the book itself, the contents. What do we learn about Julian Assange that we didn't know already?
I think we learn a huge amount. I think what I'd say to Julian would be you don't need to be afraid of this book. You should be proud of it, and you actually owe a huge debt to your ghostwriter, because what he's done here is present a full portrait of Julian, a very balanced portrait of Julian. One of Julian's frustrations and annoyances throughout this year has been how he's been portrayed by the media as this almost cartoonish character, that he's some sort of James Bond villain. Or that he's a character from a Stieg Larsson novel. That's something the New York Times wrote about him in their critical introduction to their book. And what his ghostwriter has done here is actually paint a pretty sympathetic portrait of Julian. So Julian in these pages is quite honest about, his character flaws, that he is argumentative and stubborn and combative and highly opinionated. That's there. But he's also clearly self-deprecating and articulate and funny. So it's a very three-dimensional, full portrait of Julian.
In the book, he does also go into some detail about his encounter with two Swedish women who are behind now his legal problems and extradition hearings. In it, if what he says is accurately reflected in the book, he seems to say it was his coldness, his inattention to these women that created the problem, and that had he been a bit more considerate, he might not be in this position.
I think people need to read that chapter for themselves and make up their own mind. And I understand why right now a lot of the media is focusing on that chapter. In fact, it's not even an entire chapter, it's 3/4 of a chapter. For me, that section, that Swedish section, is not the most interesting aspect of the book, but I understand why people are focusing on it. I think they just need to read the book and make up their own minds.
You started off as friends. You're certainly not that now. Now, this is not unique in publishing, but it is unique, surely, to have an autobiography that's disavowed by the very man it's about.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think this is a first.
Is it an autobiography, really, if the person it's about says it's not?
It is if all the words in this book were given by Julian to his ghostwriter over a 3-month period in taped interviews.
In his statement, he clearly points the finger at the publishing, at your organisation, as having not played to the rules, as having not given him the opportunities to correct, to redraft, as had been agreed.
What I go back to again and again is Julian gave this material willingly to his ghostwriter. He was then delivered a first draft manuscript at the end of March. He's had that manuscript now for 5.5 months. he's been given a number of opportunities to go away and work on this book, to come back with edits, redrafts, new material. He, to date, has not delivered a single word to us or to his ghostwriter on this book. So we think he's been given every opportunity to respond to this book.
Publisher Nick Davies speaking to our Europe correspondent Phil Williams, and it is more than ironic, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think?
You don't even need to acknowledge it in a sense. It is astonishing, isn't it? Remember, this is an autobiography. This is not an unauthorised biography that Julian Assange is saying, I don't want published. This is something that he received a cheque for and was completely a part of, and is now saying he doesn't want published.
Yeah, the man, you know, who's embarked on this global crusade for openness, freedom, information everywhere. When it comes to him, not so happy. So Julian Assange is being accused by some of his critics as being a bit of a hypocrite on that front this morning.